Welcome back. This is a new era and I like wrestling. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing every champion in the WWE, who I think is the number one contender and who I think will be the person who dethrones them. Of course, this is going to be kind of discussing who my favorite challenges are, who the ones that I want to dethrone, but we're going to be realistic at the same time, right? So let's dive right into it. Let's start off with the worst championship in the WWE, the Heritage Cup. I hate the Heritage Cup. I don't like it. I don't think it has any value. Get rid of it. Alexis King currently holds the Heritage Cup. There's really no person in sight that's going to take it away, but I'm going to throw out a kind of wild card, and that is Andre Chase. Andre Chase, I think, could, because he got this little groupie squad that's hovering around him, so maybe they can be a part of Andre Chase kind of regaining glory. I mean, I don't know. At this point, let a TNA person take it, because I hate the Heritage Cup personally. I think it has no meaning. I don't get, who cares about the Heritage Cup. All right, enough crapping on the Heritage Cup. Next, let's dive into the NXT Tag Team Championship. Now, this is held on by Fraxium. Fraxium is, some people say, the greatest tag team of all time in NXT and the best tag team today. My thing about Fraxium, even though I really like Fraxium, I'm on the Fraxium bandwagon. The thing that was holding them back for me in terms of being like one of the better tag teams or one of the best tag teams other than having great matches is that they didn't have a character. The Fraxium tag team didn't really feel like a tag team. It just feels like two great guys working together. They're doing a better job with wearing same outfits, but they don't really have a strong identity other than having great matches compared to like a Hardy's, compared to a DIY, compared to a Street Profits, where you kind of know what they are about and what their identity is. With that said, Fraxium is elite, and I think they're going to do a great job in the main roster. I don't know if they're going to be a tag team in the main roster, because again, they don't really have a tag team identity. So personally, even though this championship ring is great, I don't have them as the best NXT tag team. I probably would stick to someone like a DIY personally. With that said, the number one contender for the tag team championship right now is probably the Hardys. And I don't think they're going to do cross-brand championships yet. I don't think Fraxium is going to beat the Hardys for the TNA tag team champions. I think the team that's going to dethrone Fraxium is a team that beat up Fraxium relatively recently. And I think that is two members of the new NXT faction. That's who I think is going to dethrone them. I do think it's possible we might have a situation where it's Hank or Tank. That's cool too, but I think it would be very interesting if the members of the new NXT faction, two of them, were to completely dominate Fraxium and take it from them. Let's go next to the Women's North American Championship, and that's held by Stephanie Von Care. And number one contender right now is Julia. We might as well talk about the Women's NXT Championship too, because the number one contender there is Stephanie Von Care. They're doing a championship versus championship match. And this is how I see what's going to happen. I don't like the idea of someone having double titles. Not yet. We just got the North American Championship. So double titling someone, I don't think it's a good idea. I think an interference is probably going to happen to prevent anyone from winning this match. I think that's more than likely. So for the North American Women's Championship, I mean, my favorite challenger is Sol Ruka. I think Sol Ruka should win it, but I don't think she is, because I think she's going to be in another division personally. But I really want Sol Ruka to go on a singles run. So the other person that I feel like is more likely to go for the Women's North American Championship and potentially take it in a reasonable time could be Jada Parker. I think that is a strong possibility. Jada Parker could definitely win the North American Women's Championship. Jada Parker's super popular, and I do think Jada Parker, as of right now, is becoming one of those mainstay women's wrestlers for NXT. As for the NXT Women's Championship, I can see Stephanie Von Care eventually winning it. I think she needs to drop the North American Championship first. If they pull the trigger, I think between Julia and Von Care, who's winning? I think Von Care would win. But I'm going to say Jordynne Grace will be the one to take the NXT Women's Championship from Julia. And eventually Stephanie Von Care will drop the title and then go after it down the line. So those are a double predictions in one because they're facing each other. Next is the Men's North American Championship. Now, I made this kind of list before Shawn Spears won, and Shawn Spears is now the champion. I actually had my number one contender and my winner being Shawn Spears. I thought Shawn Spears was going to take the title from Tony D'Angelo. Now that he did, now I have to figure out a new number one contender for this championship, and I have one, ladies and gentlemen. I think the person who's going to challenge Shawn Spears, and I think the person who's going to take this championship from Shawn Spears will be eventually Ricky Saints. Now, he just won the championship, so not soon will Ricky Saints win it, but eventually. I think Ricky Saints will be my favorite challenger and will be the guy that I think will eventually take this title from Shawn Spears and his new faction to cement Ricky Saints as the guy, one of the guys in NXT. And last but not least, let's talk about the men's NXT championship. Right now, it's held by Obafemi. The number one contender is Moose. Moose is not beating Obafemi by any means. So the question is, who will beat Obafemi? Now, way down the line, it could be Ricky Saints. It could be a returning Miro. It could be a returning Aleister Black. I don't know. I think the safe bet will probably potentially be a Trick Williams. But my favorite challenger, because I think Oba is going to hold the title for a very long time, is Javon Evans. I think eventually they're going to pull the trigger for Javon Evans to be the guy in NXT. Obafemi's already established himself. Sooner rather than later, he's main roster ready. Same with Trick Williams. Javon Evans is the next one up, other than the previous talents that I've already mentioned. So I think Javon Evans could be the guy to dethrone, and he's my favorite challenger to dethrone Obafemi down the line in the future. Now let's talk about the Women's Tag Team Championship. Now currently it's held by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and I personally want this Tag Team Championship to go to NXT because I think it has no value on the main roster at all. So I think the number one contender and my favorite challenger is Zarya and Sol Ruca. I think they're probably going to pull the trigger for those two, bring it into the tag team division. You have so many tag teams, like Fatal Influence has two women that can do it. You have Jakara and Lash Legend. You have the team of Shotzi. Who else? Gigi Dolan, and I'm forgetting a name off the top of my head. You just have more talent in the women's roster to do tag team matches. So bring it in NXT, have the women's mid-card titles be the main mid-card championships that people go after, and that's what you gotta do. Honestly, that's what you have to do. Take the women's tag team championship off the main roster. Let's go to the World Tag Team Championship. Now, it's currently held by the War Raiders. I could see the idea that it could be the New Day in the future. Number one contender right now, it's probably still the Creed Brothers, even though they just lost. My expectation is that America Made, the entire faction, is going to win gold. So my favorite challenger is the Creed Brothers. Creed Brothers win it off the War Raiders. Hey, 3 times the charm. Chad Gable unlocks them by teaching them the ways of the luchador, and the Creed Brothers beat the War Raiders down the line. So that's what I want. For the WWE Tag Team Championship, DIY is the champion. Number one contenders, I would say Street Profits. My favorite challengers, the one who I think is going to win, is also the Street Profits. They're going to win it at WrestleMania. It's going to be a multi-tag team match, and Street Profits are winning it. No, I don't have to really say anything else. Next, let's go into the women's mid-card. So we got Lyra Valkyria as the current IC title winner. I already said what I said. Number one contender is probably still Ivy Nile or Dakota Kai. I want all of American Made to win the title, so I want Ivy Nile to win this at WrestleMania. Now, there's other options, sure, but until they kind of actually challenge Lyra, she's kind of a blank slate. You could go the Bayley route, of course. You could go Roxanne Perez route. You could bring back Becky Lynch. But I want Ivy Nile to win it, personally. Women's U.S. Championship. Chelsea Green right now. Number one contender, I would say, is Zelina Vega. And the one who's going to my favorite is Zelina Vega. Love Chelsea Green. But I think Chelsea Green's already established. I think, honestly, Chelsea Green should win Money in the Bank next year. Let's get a Chelsea Green world title run. I think we need to make Chelsea Green look more strong. I think she can have a Miz type run and it'll be fire. With that said, I think this championship needs to start uplifting other talent, and now it's time to uplift Zelina Vega. We already know how great Chelsea Green is. It's time for Zelina Vega finally to establish herself. I think she wins this title maybe at WrestleMania. Women's World Championship. Now, when I made this, the champion was Rhea Ripley, and my favorite to win it was Io Sky. Now the champion is Io Sky, so you love to see it. Who's the number one contender? It's Rhea and Bianca, mostly Bianca, but it's probably both of them. Who do I want to dethrone Io Sky? I want Io to beat Bianca and Rhea at WrestleMania. So I want Io to have a pretty decent run with this championship. And I think my favorite challenger to eventually dethrone Io Sky has to be Lyra Valkyria. Now, because I think this is a down the line thing, Lyra will eventually lose the title, and then you can push her right into the main event scene. One thing that they were telling in the Rhea versus Io storyline is Rhea's never beaten Io. Well, if we're looking at the main roster, Io has never beaten Lyra, and at this point, Lyra is right at the precipice to be a true main eventer. I do think she needs more storyline, more promos for the audience to really connect to her, but I think Lyra's great, and I think Lyra will be a great person to beat Io Sky. Let's go to the WWE Women's Championship. I kind of went out of order. I should have done men's mid-card first, but this is how I had it written down. Tiffany Stratton is the current champion. Number one contender is Charlotte Flair. I don't see Charlotte beating Tiffany at WrestleMania. If she does beat Tiffany at WrestleMania, I personally wouldn't be too upset. I think Charlotte's great. With that said, my favorite challenger, the one that I think could create a lot of buzz and storyline, is Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill beating Tiffany Stratton will just provide the opportunity for a big match between eventually Jade Cargill and the likes of Bianca Belair. Bianca is still on SmackDown. I think this is a strong possibility. And I mean, it just cements who Jade is, being this big superstar. Next, let's go to the men's mid-card championships. I should have done this before the women's main event championships, to be honest. Current men's champion for the Intercontinental Championship is Braun Breaker. He's a dog. Number one contender is probably Finn Balor right now. I don't think Finn Balor is beating Braun Breaker, but my favorite challenger is Ilya Dragunov. I think Ilya, when he comes back, wins that Intercontinental Championship. I can't wait for Ilya to come back, because just like what the IC title did for Braun, I think they were going to do a big storyline with Ilya, but then everything got screwed up. So now you will have Ilya, now that Braun's already established, Ilya come back and get his get back against Braun. I'm here for it. Men's U.S. Championship, Shinsuke Nakamura is the current champion. Number one contender right now is L.A. Knight. Yeah, I think L.A. Knight could win, but screw it. I don't want L.A. Knight to win. Jimmy Uso. That's who I want, Jimmy Uso to win the championship. I think Jimmy Uso is really good. I think Jimmy Uso needs the opportunity to showcase himself as a singles talent, and I think this is the best way to do it. Now, if L.A. Knight won, I wouldn't be upset if L.A. Knight won. L.A. Knight actually can, propel a mid-card division. The thing about Shinsuke is, yes, he doesn't get booked properly at all. Honestly, you can put him in matches. Sometimes the WWE is weird because they don't want to squash other wrestlers. So they don't want to make other wrestlers look weak, but they make certain wrestlers look weak in the main event scene, but they don't want to do it in the mid-card scene. Like, you can have Shinsuke beating Andrade in a US title match. You have Shinsuke beating Carmelo in a US title match. You can have Shinsuke beating so many different people and they will be fine, but they just don't do it. So Shinsuke's on the shelf. He doesn't cut promos really. He has very little vignettes. It's disappointing. I think Shinsuke is being heavily underutilized. LA Knight will force promo battles. I know they love people just doing promos, because even Braun Breaker doesn't get enough screen time. So the WWE needs to space things out a little bit better. With that said, Jimmy Uso is my favorite contender. Let's go to main event. Gunther is the champion. Number one contender is Jey Uso. Jey Uso is gonna win it. He's gonna win the championship at WrestleMania, and I'm all for it. I'm locked in. And then the WWE Championship, the champion is my boy Cody Rhodes. Number one contender is John Cena. I think he's going to be the one to win it. My favorite challenger is still Randy Orton, but I think all three of them are going to be in the mix somehow at some point. With that said, those are my champions, the number one contenders, and who are my favorite challengers. With that said, let me know your thoughts about the championship picture. Probably will do this video every month to kind of go over the championship scene. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed. You have a good one. Take care and peace.